hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ask Julie Anything April edition. You don't know me yet, but I am the new marketing and events coordinator at Adored Beast. Seth, who usually hosts these events, moved to another position in the company, so from now on, I will be your host. Nice to meet you all. And today we are having a special event. As you might know, April 22nd is Earth Day. And this year, to celebrate this important date for all of us, Julie will be delivering a special presentation to talk about the Earth. She will be covering some very important topics with regard to being Earth conscious and how the decisions we make every day impact our animals and the big wide world in general. And as usual, at the end of Julie's presentation, we will be answering your questions. But before we start, I want to remind you all about some housekeeping items. So please switch your chat to everyone so that we can all join in on the conversation. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will do our best to get through all of them. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Julie and Lee.
Hi, everybody. Oh, my goodness. If everyone wants to just say who's here in the chat so I know what's going on and who's live with us would be awesome. I'm just wondering, and the Zoom's going too, right? Like our Zoom thing is on. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, everything is working fine. Okay,
perfect. So it has been a very interesting day today. I was excited to do this today because Earth Day is a really important day for me. We decided this year at Adored Beast we were going to try and do it Earth Month instead of just Earth Day, so that we could I don't know, I think the energy today is just really, I have a very sick cat, and now Henry's just gone out to like have a kerfluffle with my other cat. It's just been like, then we had some issues with Facebook, but anyways, I think everything's going to be just great. And I'm just looking at, oh, the chat's disabled. I wondered, Mariana.
Yeah.
The chat is disabled.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So they're saying anonymous attendee and Susan Joyce are saying that the chat's disabled. But maybe we can. That's a bit strange. Anyways, doesn't matter. Hopefully we can. Susie Joyce, do you want to try it again? Because you've got in there that that it is disabled, but then Rebecca was able to join all of this evening. Rebecca was able to say something. So do you guys want to, Tracy Marvel, the chat is disabled for her too. So something's going on, Mariana, that people can't write in the chat. Are you checking on that? And you're muted, Mariana, so I can't hear you.
Just a sec. Sorry, guys. I'm just. Can you try again the chat, please? No. Yes.
Okay.
I'm so sorry for that.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. It's all good now. Yay. All right.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, today has been like a bit of a crazy day for me. I almost felt like I was gonna have to cancel it because of my kitty, and then I decided that you know it is such an important piece of my life, protecting the environment and protecting the earth. So I've decided that yes, we were going to go ahead with it, and he seems to be fairly stable right now. So I hope in an hour from now he's going to be fine as well. So all right, so I am going to share my screen with everybody, and I'm just going to shrink it a little, shrink this one, exit full screen. share my screen. Okay, can you guys see it? And I'll just fix it.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, awesome. So we'll start like this. Okay, so does that look all right for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so what we're going to try and cover tonight is just in general being grateful for nature. What does really sustainable mean? You know, should we actually be quote unquote marketing Mother Nature, and some manufacturing and sourcing, just little things. So what I decided to do, as usual, I've been incredibly busy today, so I haven't even been able to go through my slides. I literally just downloaded them like 3 minutes before we were going live. Henry, can you, oh, good boy. Sorry. And so all right, so let's get going. Oops. Oh, lovely. See what I mean? It's like, I wonder if this is, nope. Okay, awesome. It's not working. Oh my gosh. I think this is like not funny, but it's funny. Let me look. Let's see. There, yay. Okay. So what we decided to do is just to take some quotes from me that I've done over the past years, and we kind of put them out to, because there's probably thousands of quotes that I have about the environment and Mother Earth. And so what we decided to do is everybody looked at them on the team, and everybody sort of picked one that they liked the most. And the first one that we're going to start with was, my wish is to make every day Earth Day. And I really do mean that from the bottom of my heart, because as we go through these slides, you're gonna see how important it is to me, how important it is to the company, and how important it really should be, in my opinion, to every person in the world, whether they have animals or they don't have animals, whether they love nature or they don't love nature, because without it, none of us are going to exist. So for me and Adored Beast, there is no hierarchy. So all animals, wildlife, and nature are equal in our focus on healing. I started saying that way back in my vet clinic in 1997. I'll never forget this, because it was the big deal for cancer to use something called shark cartilage. And because I was a holistic veterinary hospital, people were calling me, and vets were even calling me saying, have you heard about shark cartilage? Do you sell it? Can you get it for us? And people were really blown away that I didn't have it at my clinic. And, I always think that if you're in a noise, that's my cat, not the sick one though. And people were blown away that I wouldn't have it. And to me, taking anything from nature that requires something to be tortured, used inhumanely, not looked at the larger picture, was a real oxymoron for me. How do we say that we're holistic? How do we say that we're we love nature and we look to nature to heal, when we are doing things to it and its invaluable creatures that live on this planet, a massive disservice, and sort of saying, okay, our dogs or our cats or our horses are more important than sharks, because shark cartilage and shark fin is really inhumane. So even back then, this was an important thing. Like it wasn't even an important thing that I decided that I was going to do. It just, to me, seemed like such an oxymoron. Like it just doesn't energetically vibe with love of nature, period. So sustainability does not always mean sustaining our ecosystem, but rather sustaining the industry. Beware of greenwashing. And That is huge. And I mean, it's really huge. I did a really amazing webinar about natural skincare, and it was very focused on women. It was incredible. And they were talking about that the average woman, that's not even someone that wears makeup, that's just the average woman, that will use anywhere between 5 and 11 products, whether that's through tampons, whether it's through Kleenex tissue, whether it's through body cream or toothpaste or mascara or face cream or body wash or shampoo and conditioner. The average person is consuming 1,000 to 1,400 chemicals a day. And when he was talking about consuming, he literally was saying, you know, which we know about the microbiome of the skin that I've lectured about, but that our skin actually consumes. So when we think about this, even with our dogs and the shampoos that we're using with our dogs, the skin is consuming. And he said that there is no filter. Once it goes through the skin, it goes right into the bloodstream. So at least when you're eating it, there is a little bit of a way that the body can protect itself and detoxify itself from all these chemicals. But when you're putting all these chemicals on your skin, it instantly goes into your bloodstream. And what's really bad is that some of these chemicals by itself is just under the radar for like carcinogenics and hormone disruptors and things like that. But in combination of like hundreds and thousands of these chemicals going into your system and going in together, the accumulative effect is incredibly detrimental. So he was saying, like, unless you are prepared to take, and he was dead serious, to take your shampoo and drink it. If you won't do that, you shouldn't be using it on your body wash. You shouldn't be using it on your skin. So he went into this whole thing about greenwashing, and it is really true. Like, you really have to be careful with the word organic or the word natural, because it really can be a marketing tool and has nothing to do with whether it's even truly all natural or truly all organic, but that what it's not environmental. So there is unfortunately there's a huge really dangerous marketing tool out now with, and we're going to go into some of them, with what actually sustainability means. And sustainability, I would have to say, is usually less. I would say the majority of them are less about protecting the environment in our world and our planet than it is saying that, yes, this company is sustainable. We can sustain fishing when we're growing fish in tanks. We can sustain, but then they don't tell you, yes, we can sustain them growing in these tanks, but they don't tell you that in order to consume one of those fish that are grown in a tank, it takes 6 to 10 fish a day from the ocean to feed that fish. So just, things like that, like just try to be really, really aware. This is my opinion too, in the natural pet industry, we have to start looking at how we can produce things that support nature rather than constantly taking from her. And that's a big one for us. That's a huge one for us, because we impeccably source. So we have a wonderful woman that works with us. Her name is Leith Henry, and she is in California, and that's what she does. That's for us, is she sources our ingredients and sends me the COAs, and I see something weird about it and I send it back, and she says, I ask her different questions, and then she digs in more, and it's about how clean it is, how truly organic it is, and is it actually, does that company support all the ethical, sustainable check marks that we want to have for our ingredients for ABA. But it goes even further than that. So instead of we've always done that, but now what we're doing is we're actually trying to give back. And I don't mean by giving a percentage to the planet, but actually doing things within the company that supports the environment. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. So, which is what we're going to do now. So rewilding clear-cut forests for our medicinal mushrooms, so we can show the world that forests are worth so much more than pulp and paper. And this was a big one. It was a big one for my business partner, Deanna, and I, when we started our company called Myco-Biome, which is producing medicinal mushrooms in forests. So not just finding a forest and putting a bunch of logs in the forest. What we're doing is we're rewilding the forest. So we're growing the medicinal mushrooms in the forest so that they can have the bacteria that the forest provides, and those mushrooms can have the forest wisdom. So, and the nutrients and the dense bacterias and the whole 9 yards. But when we're doing this, we're rewilding clear cut. So we have old growth, we have something called selectively logged, which I purchased these forests, and some of them have been fully clear cut. So what we're trying to do is with all three is reintroduce what's from the old growth into all of these clear cut forests, and rebuild the environment, not just for mushrooms, rebuild the environment for the salamanders and the birds and the deer and all of the fauna and all of the different plants and herbs. And we're trying to bring that ecosystem back to nature. It's a lot of work. It has nothing to do with the mushrooms, really. The mushrooms are well, it's a synergistic process, really, what it is. We're growing mushrooms, but we're trying to rebuild forests. So we're not just purchasing them from somewhere that has been sustainable. We are actually creating the true rewilding and sustainability of forests. And it is it's our goal that once we've done this, I've been doing lectures at mycology conferences and stuff. And what our goal is that once we have a very clear template for this, then we are going to be sharing this with other woodlot owners so that they don't, because what happens is woodlot owners are often very naive from when they're approached by a clear-cut company. So the clear-cut company that comes and they promise them all these things, and they say that they replant the trees, and they say all of this stuff. And usually they leave and it looks like the forest has been raped. It is like the most horrific sight that you could possibly imagine. It becomes a void. I mean, I bet you everybody listening has heard about clear cutting, and some companies are better than others, but I have to tell you, the majority of the ones that I've seen, and I've been around a lot in BC and out here, and it is literally the first time I ever saw it, I felt like I was going to throw up. And even now I feel sick. I feel like someone's punched me in the stomach when I drive by. And most of the time, the owners, what's happened is these lots, these forests have been given down by their ancestors and their family. So they don't want to sell it. So then they sell off the wood so that they can keep the land. Like that's their thing. They say, oh, well, this way you don't have to sell your family's property. You can still have the family's property, but at least, this money will pay for your taxes. This money will pay for this and this and this. And then when they leave and they turn around and look, and it looks like, like an atomic bomb has gone off, it's void of birds and animals, and it's void of everything. It's horrible. Then they're crushed. So my goal is to be able to provide this template to people that have forests, and so that they can start doing this in their own forests and start making money with their forests other than for pulp and paper. So I've had really, really, really a lot of support from the Mycology Association, and a lot of people really interested. So I'm very excited. If we all did one environmentally minded action, we can make a massive impact to help our earth. That is true. Like, I talked about the cumulative effects of chemicals. So you might have one chemical that the FDA or Health Canada goes, oh, it's under the radar for being a carcinogenic. It's like just, it's just hasn't hit that thing where we have to go, no, it's banned. But we'll put it in. But you just put this one in, then you put this one in, then you put this one in. So it has this massive accumulative negative effect. Whereas this is the opposite. So just doing a small thing, if everyone did a small thing, the accumulative impact on the world would be exponential. So some people think, oh, well, I'm not doing enough recycling, or I'm not doing enough of this, or I really don't do that, or no, I don't take, transit, or if I just took transit once a week, what's that going to do? That's not going to do anything. It does the world of good. It does amazing things. So for all of you that are out there that are feeling guilty because you don't do enough, just keep doing what you're doing, and maybe share that quote with other people, so that they don't feel guilty and they just do one or two things to make a big difference. So this one's going to be very, very, very I don't know. It's going to butt up a lot against a lot of people. I know a lot of people are selling seal oil, and I know a lot of my very close colleagues and very close friends support it 1,000%. So I'm just going to make this statement right now very clearly that I am not saying that I am not judging anybody, and I'm not telling anyone that they're right or wrong. But I've been trying to think about this for a very long time, for almost a year now, of how I was going to be able to approach this issue, and without stepping on a lot of people's toes. And it was tough. It was really, really tough. And I felt like I can't not say it, because we're getting a lot of questions at customer service. Why don't we carry seal oil? Because it's so sustainable, and all the pet stores are carrying it, and everyone's saying that, it's this and it's that. So I'm going to tell you something. When I was 7 years old, I canvassed for the seal hunt, and I walked door to door and got signatures for the seal hunt, to stop the seal hunt. And my father was devastated and embarrassed, and just was livid with my mother that she was letting me do this, and sort of demanded with my mom to make me stop doing it. And what if she gets hit by a car, and what do people think, that she's going door to door and she's 7 years old, and things like that. And my mom said, well, you have a point. And her point was that it was maybe not so safe for me to go door to door by myself. So instead of stopping me, she drove me door to door. And then I was able to go to like subdivision to subdivision, because we still lived in town at that time. So this has been a big thing for me for a very long time. And it is the same ugly industry as it was when I was 7 years old. They've just marketed it in a different way. And I don't want it to just be my opinion. All what's on these next slides has come from the international SPCA, who has dug in and done tons of research on this sustainable seal hunting. So harp seals are the primary target of the commercial seal hunt. Hundreds of thousands of seals have been killed annually. More than 1 million seals have been slaughtered in the last 5 years alone. 97% of harp seals killed are pups under 3 months old. In the 50s and 60s, which one when I was a kid, overhunting reduced the harp seal population as much as 2/3. By the early 1970s, senior Canadian government scientists were warning that the population could be lost altogether if the commercial sealing was not suspended for at least a decade, which it was. But now, despite a recognition and ban, the industry quietly opened back up. In fact, it is so prolific now that there are growing indications that the Canadian government is working to expand commercial seal hunting even further. So I just want you guys to take a look at this picture, because I know many of you know that I sponsored a Ukraine family, and the two lovely people, that the husband and wife that came, uh, are animal animal therapists. So they dealt with children and adults with PTSD and mental health issues, and with horses and seals and dolphins. And they told me that seals are so much like dogs that the majority of the trainers or therapists had them living with them, because they lived right on the water, like right it's called a dolphinarium. And the seals would go home with them just like dogs, and they live in packs, and they have a huge, they're not fish, right? They're not fish, and they're not even whales. These animals live on land. So for me, it's really such an oxymoron that they are so much like dogs. They're not they're more air breathing and more like a dog than a whale or a dolphin or anything like that. And it just blows my mind how we're all trying to stop the Asian dog meat sector, and that we are doing this to these animals that have the capacity to learn and be part of a family just like a dog. It just really blows my mind. Sorry. Why is this not doing okay? So just a few months ago, the federal government hosted a seal summit, inviting seal and fishing industry groups, but excluding any organization that advocated to end the seal slaughter. The outcome of this meeting was a commitment to expanding the global seal product market, which is funny because already 21 countries already have told Canada that they will refuse to have, that it was banned and it was considered unethical and cruel. And it's no different than it was back then. So anyway, so now it's going to be even, the commitment was to expand the global seal products. I don't know why my thing, okay. And we see evidence of this disinterest in seal welfare every day. Each year, quotas are routinely exceeded with no penalties whatsoever. Overhunting, along with climate change and continued loss of ice, means seals are continuing to die at alarming rates. So they're not taking into effect the environmental hazards of doing something like this. They're just looking at it from the industry. Remember, I talked about a sustainable industry. This has nothing to do with sustain the environment. And the reason that they're not telling you that is because then no one would buy it. No one would support it if they thought that it was had a negative impact or was as cruel as it is. The lack of ice means that these seals will endure even crueler killing methods. Pups will be shot and clubbed in or near open waters. Many will be wounded and will escape beneath the water surface. They will die slowly. Others will be impaled on metal hooks while conscious, dragged onto a bloody boat, decks, and beaten to death. And I know I really didn't want to go into this detail, but when I go to trade shows and I listen to the propaganda of what they're saying about how wonderful this oil is and how ethically they are murdered and how I just want to scream and run. I don't even know what I want to do. It's such smoke and mirrors. So I do think that I need to be able to be someone that is giving you another look at it. Like, you know how I give you another look at antibiotics, steroids, gut health, whatever. Okay. So that you're getting informed decision on both sides of the fence, right? I feel like to do that with you guys too, because right now what you're hearing the industry and what the billions of dollars that's going into this, and the millions of dollars of advertising that's going into this to make it look like something that it actually isn't. So I know that was intense, but being grateful for nature and recognizing its role in our everyday lives is really something that I would just love for everybody to do this. Now, I know everyone that follows me has heard me say things like, I wake up in the morning and I have a grateful book right beside my pillow. And it's before I even go pee, I grab my book, and before I'm even awake, almost when I'm still in that sort of half asleep, half awake, I start writing everything that I'm grateful for. I look out my window and I see my horses and I see the ocean and I see a tree, and sometimes I see snow, sometimes I see crazy winds, but I'm always writing, I'm grateful for you guys. I'm grateful for my following. I'm grateful for my company. I'm grateful for, you start writing in it, and it's in it. All of a sudden you're, if you're feeling kind of grumpy or stressed, and you start writing one thing and then you write another thing, and then all of a sudden it just starts flowing out of you. So when I say about being grateful for nature, I wonder how many people actually understand that if it wasn't for nature, we wouldn't be having this webinar. So nature's just not about our herbs in our tinctures and our natural medicinal things, or natural hair color, or natural skincare, or naturopathic doctors, or even going out and paddling a boat. Almost every single solitary thing we do that gives us comfort, that supports our lives, comes from nature. When you plug in your when you plug in your iPhone, or you plug in your cell phone, you wouldn't have a cell phone if it wasn't for metal. You wouldn't have the energy if it wasn't for nature. So metal, electricity, it's nature. Like, how many times do we pick up our phone and say, oh, thank you, nature, for producing the energy for me to be able to make sure my kids are okay, or talk to my mom, or do whatever. I really don't think we understand, like, it's our fridge, right? Our refrigerator, so that we don't have to run outside and put ice in, and that we have cold food so that we don't get sick, and that we have food for longer. Every time you turn on your kettle, every time you cook food, every time you turn up the furnace, every time you turn on your air conditioner, every time you drive your car to work or take your dog to an off-leash dog park, every single solitary thing that we're using comes from nature, and it comes with a cost. And that cost, in my opinion, is being disconnected that all of these things that we have actually come from nature. If we tried to remember, and we were reminded by companies that make, Apple, or, our gas companies, or whatever, if we're reminded to not just thank the companies, but to thank nature, because that's where it's coming from, maybe we would be a little bit more aware of just not throwing stuff out, like our consumption of things, right? Like, it's like, oh, it's just this, we're throwing it out, but we don't realize that what did we have to take? What did we actually have to do to the earth to make that, and then probably massively amounts of like I said, anything from metal to electricity to water to gas to oil to fracking to the list goes on. And then our dumps are filled with crap that we just aren't even thinking that maybe we could fix, because they're not even built to be fixed anymore. They're built to throw out. So I just wanted everybody to sort of think about that. And even music, right? Like, How many people love music? And with music, it's made from wood. It's made from metal, like, trumpets and guitar strings and all of the beautiful things that we hear. If it wasn't for nature, if it wasn't for them being made from nature, we wouldn't have music. So that was just something that I just didn't know if everybody kind of thinks about. And if everybody could think about even just that, go have a coffee with someone and be like, wow, the water that made this latte is from nature. Yeah, sure, the coffee beans and everything else is, but water, like, without water, we're not going to go very far. And without our air, we're not going to go very far. Without our food. But it's just so much more that if we pay attention, I think our hearts and our gratitude for nature will become bigger. And I think that when that happens, it's like contagious, saying one thing to someone and then they are like, wow, yeah. And then they're sitting around the dinner table and they say something to someone else, or they tell their children, so it's just about being grateful and recognizing its role in our every day, every minute, probably, lives. So yeah, that was just something that also I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to, why does it say, I don't want to share that now. I want to stop my sharing. Here we go. It stopped, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just shrink this and open this up more.
I want to thank you, Julie, for the presentation and to talk about such important things, especially these days. It's important, like you said, for all of us to do our part. So thank you so much for that. And we have some questions, and
Yeah.
if you guys want to ask us more, we have a question about the discussion today, and also some others about Adored Beast. I guess it's okay for us to talk about our products too.
Yeah, we can go through some questions if people have questions about the products, or if there is did you say there was questions about what I just spoke?
There's one about the seal oil. Let me just let me check who asked that. Just a second.
Is it in the questions?
Is in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Just it's Cheryl. If seal hunting is illegal, how can people sell products with their oil, and why would anyone buy it? I have never heard of seal oil.
So it's not illegal. That's the whole thing. It's very, very legal, and they're making it even easier and easier to do. So more and more accessible to do. The question about why would people buy seal oil is because it's marketed as the highest omega-3 on the market and the cleanest omega-3 on the market. And the other thing is there is a lot of companies, or a lot of countries are still banning it, but they're spending, like I said, they're spending millions and millions of dollars basically telling people how great it is and how ethical it is and how we have to sustain it because there's too many seals and there's this and there's that. But no one's listening about how, there's no fish for the whales, and the whales are needing to eat seals. So, we're reducing food for other parts of the country, and other parts of the ocean, like the other mammals that eat seals. And the other thing that I really wanted to talk about was that I know that I didn't mention is that, in our potency lecture that I did, I talked about oxygen, right? Oxygen coming from the ocean, and that whether you are in love with seals or whales or really don't even care about animals in general, I always say to people, do you want to breathe? Because a large portion of our oxygen comes from phytoplankton in the ocean. But the way that phytoplankton disperses the oxygen into the air is by movement. And how it moves is with large schools of fish or large underwater mammals like sharks, whales, seals. The real issue here for me, and this is hypothetical, but this is something that I'm questioning, and nobody in the seal industry can answer this because I've asked them, is that we don't have those schools of fish anymore. We have almost like our amount of fish in our oceans is ridiculously low, scary low. And it's why they're doing on-land fish. It's why they're growing fish in tanks, because we don't have enough fish in the ocean. If we don't have fish in the ocean, we don't have movement in the ocean. And if the ocean dies of movement, of lack of movement, we don't get the oxygen. So it's not about being a tree hugger, a whale hugger, or an ocean hugger. It's literally, for me, it's everything. It's definitely an ocean hugger, but it's also like people need to wake up and understand that if we keep saying that we know more about the ocean than what is actually happening in the ocean, we're going to be in big trouble, like really, really big trouble. So when large amounts of seals are swimming and fishing, that movement of one massive big seal replicates and takes the place of many, 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 many small fish. So it just is it's so one-sided. It's so one-sided. This conversation around the seal hunt is so one-sided. It is actually really scary. So all I'm trying to say to everybody is, don't be blinded by the light. It's just, do your homework, reach out to the SPCA. They're not gaining anything from it, right? They're not some crazy, back thing. Like you can't say that the SPCA are these radical animal lovers, right? They're really sussing this out, and they're really getting information, and they're really, really digging in. So before you go to your pet store and all your friends that are going to pet stores, you should be talking to as many people as you can about this, that just run in and these poor people with these pet stores are being fed this information that they don't even understand the other side. They haven't looked into what is the other side. There's another side of everything. There is no just one side. If it was stopped once because it was considered cruel, they have a lot of data showing that it's not. All you really have to do is watch a couple videos of how they actually do it, and that data quickly goes out the window. There's something there was something else. I just saw a question come up about it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's Camilla Chapman.
Yeah, but
she's saying, hi, Julie, what is happening to seals and so many other animals is heartbreaking. What can we do to help make a difference for them?
I think the same way that the Asian dog meat market was hush-hushed for a while, and we have to be respectful of other countries and respectful of other ethnic groups that are like, I get that. So, and that's why the Asian dog market wasn't brought to attention for a long time, was because people thought, who are we to say, like, that's what they eat, right? That's what that community, that's what that country eats. Who are we to step in and say it's wrong? And then enough information went into it, and enough information went into like how they're raised and how they're slaughtered and how all of that stuff, that it became a massive awareness for everybody, right? It just became a really big global thing. Same thing has to happen with the seal hunts. We have to be careful that we're respectful of the groups, some of the groups that are doing it, and understand where that comes from. But in my opinion, it doesn't matter to me what group is doing it if it is completely and blatantly torturous for something. There's got to be a different way of doing it that is more ethical. Like even if we say, okay, this group of people need to be able to hunt seals, this group of people, it's their right, that's what they should be able to do. There has to be able to be, instead of a whole bunch of money going into marketing it, a whole bunch of money should be going into how do we support this group to do this in an ethical way, in a way that isn't torturous for these animals that are very similar to dogs. They're very, very similar to dogs. They can be trained like dogs. They have the same community as dogs. They're super, super smart. Like if we had all pools in our backyard where they could be in the water and out of the water, we would probably have seals as pets, like that is how bonded that they can be, so I just think is to get as much education on it, real education, not from the seal industry. You don't go to the gas companies, do we go to the gas companies and ask the gas companies what's the bad side of the gas and oil industry? Are we going to the oil fields and go, okay, hey guys, like, tell me all the bad things that are going on out here? They're going to have more information and so more science-based data to show how fracking and all of this stuff isn't harming the world, right? Just like we didn't have global warming. It was no such thing. We were all crazy. Everyone that talked about global warming 30 years ago was crazy, So you're not going to be able to get information from the seal hunting industry. We're going to have to get information from people like the SPCAs, people that are, I strongly disagree there. I wonder who that is, because I'm welcoming this stuff. So, it's why, Jesse, how to everyone, I strongly disagree there. There's no right to kill. I would be interested of what that means. Say yourself, is it ethical way to kill a living being for your own consumption? I can't read. Yes, I don't know. It's going too fast. It's the same way with cattle, right? So I just want to step in here for a minute when it comes to even just the consumption of food animals, right? Let's just go there for a second. So 20 years ago, I met a man that his name is Roger Harley, and he is a farmer in Ontario, and he started the Ethical Farming Association. And 20 years ago, you wouldn't go to Superstore, you wouldn't go and you wouldn't really hear about ethical treatment for animals, right? Chickens were kept in cages and their beaks were chopped off and they self-mutilated it themselves and things like that. And more and more information got out about how unethical and inhumane that was. And this has got nothing to do with being a vegetarian or a vegan. Nothing. It has zero to do with it. This has got to do with like factory farms contributing to global warming, probably as much as gasoline. This has got to do with our overconsumption of meat. This has got to do with the tons of meat that goes into a garbage dump every single week because it's one day past due, and Health Canada or the FDA or the government won't allow us to freeze it and then use it immediately in a properly a careful kitchen for people that don't have meat or don't have food. It's this blinkers on. Don't look at any way of there's no solutions to everything. There's just covering it up and pretending like it's not there. So like I said, I really don't care whether it is whether you're vegan or you're vegetarian. That's not the issue. The issue is nothing, in my opinion, nothing. And this goes back to me hanging out with a lot of Indigenous and with my mom and stuff, where nothing is consumed or killed or sacrificed for a human being's life to live survival in a way that it is disrespectful to that being, the way it's killed. It's the opposite. Every single thing is used. Every single thing is blessed. The way they're killed is humanely. And that just doesn't happen anymore. It's people aren't even aware of it. But what I was going to say is people are becoming more aware of it, right? People, even 10 years ago when I moved to Nova Scotia, when I walked into grocery stores, I couldn't find uncaged like eggs, free run eggs or free range eggs. I couldn't, now they've got ethical, SPCA stamped ethical beef. They've got, because people are starting to pay attention. And I just feel like, the way they paid attention when I talked to Roger was they didn't pay attention initially because they cared about the animals. They paid attention because he did a study showing that the cortisol levels in factory raised animals are exponentially higher than in an animal that's raised and slaughtered humanely. And when you eat cortisol, it increases your cholesterol. So everyone's dying and having heart attacks. Meanwhile, they're going to spin classes and they're fit and they're saying it's stress. Definitely it's stress, but it's also the stress that we're consuming from our meat. We're ingesting cortisol, and cortisol is from animals living in constant stress. It's not just from an animal going to a slaughterhouse and getting killed in that moment. It's them living in constant stress of living an inhumane life and then being treated horrifically at a slaughterhouse. So, and then we're consuming that stress. We're consuming that stress hormone, and it's contributing to our high cholesterol and giving people heart attacks. And it is, it's pretty intense, and it makes a lot of sense, right? So, everybody has their own opinion. I am not going to tell anyone that I'm right and they're wrong. This is my opinion. It's my opinion from following this hunt from when I'm 64 years old, and I've been following this hunt since I was 7 years old. And I'm still am very deeply involved in it. And all I'm saying is that we aren't just, drinking the Kool-Aid from chemicals and things that we were told were good for us, from a drug perspective, from pesticides. Like, we were told that glyphosates were healthy. We were told that pesticides and insecticides, there's nothing wrong with them. They aren't carcinogenic. They're totally fine. They're doing the same thing. We're told and then all of a sudden, okay, now it's carcinogenic, and all of a sudden it's this. It's like, get the information and don't drink the Kool-Aid till you know exactly what's in it. And that's all I'm saying with the seal industry, is that get the information and don't get it from the seal industry. get it from people that have been digging into it with biologists and like are on the scene of the slaughter. So, there is a lot of different ways that we can do things. And I think the other thing with me is I'm anally solution oriented. So I feel like if I can't stop something, then there's got to be a solution to make it better. Right. So for anyone that goes, oh, you're wrong, what I'm saying is that if it needs to happen, and it needs to happen in a smaller circle because it's supporting something, it doesn't have to happen that way. And when I hear that, or when I hear the way why it needs to happen, all I hear is greed and money. That's all I hear. I don't hear any really, really smart, intelligent people trying to find a different way of doing it, that these animals are not tortured, and their families watching them being tortured, so yeah, it's a pretty big thing for me. And I know I'm going to butt up against a lot of people, and and I'm just gonna, I when I was 7 years old, I wasn't going to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm definitely not going to drink it now. So let's go on to some other questions if we want to.
Okay, I was about to ask if because it's almost 9, and if you want to keep with the questions. I have one here from Suze Joyce that I think it's a good one. I struggle with my raw food to feed Gordy, my border collie Golden. I can't do rabbit or lamb. I have never eaten it myself. He's eating wild boar because I have never seen one. Thoughts in light of what you are talking about tonight? And she added, Gordy's coat is amazing now, thick, soft, and long since doing the East Beast. And however, he's still chewing his balls.
Okay. So I struggle with what raw food to feed Gordy, my border collie. Golden, I can't do rabbit or lamb. She can't do rabbit or lamb because Gordy can't do rabbit or lamb, or because she just can't bring herself to do rabbit or lamb. I've never eaten it. I've never eaten it myself.
Yeah.
Getting wild boar because I've never seen one. Okay. Thoughts. So I get it. I can't bring myself to do it. Okay. So again, source out whatever company. Like I know that a company called Red Dog Blue Cat in BC. I've seen her fly into places, and because the meat has been said it's ethical, but they changed their practices, she actually pulls a whole protein out of her company until she can source a protein that find a farmer that is doing ethical. So I mean, wild boar, just because they say it's wild boar is like a breed of pig, and it is still farmed. So you have to do your homework. Being ethical is more work. It just is. So you walk your talk, which means that you have to dig into your labels. You have to ask your companies questions, and you have to dig into something that, you just got to do more digging. That's all. And asking different companies to send you what their ethical meat means, and what is their ethics around that. And the other thing is, I don't know how much Gordy is on, it's called Red Dog Blue Cat in BC. So I don't know what Gordy is on as far as vegetables go, but we've always had this big issue about what percentage of vegetables should dogs have, and I've always said 25%. For me, I've always fed quite a bit of veg, And, because of the fiber, because of the prebiotic effect, for lots of different reasons. And, the more the companies that have the higher vegetable content, they have to use less animals, so if you're using a meat that's got 90% meat and 10% veg, you're using, what, 90, 77, 8, 9, you're using 20% more meat, 20% more animals. So you can look at it that way.
Can I
And
ask a question? Is the
yes, Gordy's coat is amazing now, thick and soft, and since he's been doing ECB, so it's just going to take time. So in homeopathy, we looked at healing, and we looked at direction of cure, it's called, which is very homeopathic terms. I'm not talking about curing skin disease or anything, but often they say, above to below, and from inside out. So healing comes from healing inside first, and then it manifests on the outside, right? So the skin is usually the last organ to show how healthy it is, right? So to show how healthy that the animal or the person is getting on the inside. So you can think about that and from above below, so from head to feet. And it would be I have actually seen that it is the last thing that often goes, is they're chewing their feet.
is it
You
the
want
yeah, it's still talking about Gordy, and if the meat, the protein should always comes from meat for dogs and other animals.
You're asking me if it should always come from meat, the protein?
Yeah, or if
Right now,
we can use other sources.
it's predominantly meat. Yeah.
Got it. And okay, so there is one here about liver tonic. If liver tonic a type of homeopathic, and I'm curious to understand it better because you mentioned it's a liver support, not a detox.
Detox, yeah. So the liver tonic is formulated that we use very low amounts of each medicinal ingredient so that it doesn't create a detoxification process. So it's not that it's not a detox, right? It does help the body to detoxify the liver, but it's not a detox. We formulate it so that they don't, it doesn't create a negative detox. Do you know what I mean? Because if you detox an organ too quickly, your dog or the person or whatever you're detoxing can get really sick. If your body's not healthy enough to do a detox, your animal can crash. And then when it crashes, it's got to go on more steroids, and it's got to go on more antibiotics, and it has to go on more drugs, or it has to come off of, it just, for me, it's always everything that I do, I come from a perspective of above all, do no harm. So you can go a long way with things and not have to have aggravations or healing crises or detoxifications. I try to avoid those things at all costs. I did it at my clinic, and I do it with all of my formulas, so that it's a very subtle but powerful formula. So, and when you do a high dose of milk thistle or something like that, just think about it. And we're just focusing on the liver. We don't just focus on the liver. We focus on the liver and all the liver supporting organs. So the pancreas, the gallbladder, the kidneys. So when all of those are functioning at their best level, then your liver has even more support in order to be able to regenerate. So that's how our liver tonic is formulated.
Another question here. Julie, what do you think would be the best probiotic rotation to try with a 14-year-old dog that is otherwise healthy?
I would do Phytosflora. I would go through a bottle of Phytosflora. Then I would go on to Soil and Sea. Then I would finish Soil and Sea, and then I would go on the wolf strain. And then I would finish the wolf strain. Then I would probably go on Gut Soothe. And then I would rotate. Then if everything's going well, you could try Healthy Gut. But if he's 14 and he's healthy, then he's probably got a pretty good digestive system from a perspective of enzymes. And then I would just rotate back and then just go back to Phytosflora and then just rotate through.
Great. And is there a natural or homeopathic way to deal with cataracts in dogs?
Cataracts.
Yeah.
So we always have to make sure that your cataracts aren't stemming from something like diabetes, because that is a big reason how cataracts can help. So always make sure you go and get some blood work done. But there is actually, if you want to contact Andrea, it depends on how bad they are, right? And I don't know how old this animal is, this dog is, but I've had cataract surgery done on a dog, and I've seen other dogs have cataract surgeries, but you have to get to the core reason why they've got cataracts. But if they're just starting, like if you're just starting to notice them, get blood work done, make sure it doesn't have anything to do with diabetes or any other underlying issue. And then there's remedies like Thiocyanium and again, gut health, keeping the inflammation down, right? So decreasing inflammation. So yes, definitely there are homeopathic remedies specifically for helping to prevent cataracts.
Great. There's another question here from Marlena. Have you ever heard about lab-grown protein, never conscious meat production thoughts grown using cells?
Yeah, yes, we're actually looking at that right now. I can't mention anything about it at the moment, but we are looking at it. We have to be careful, we have to be careful that, again, like that's why people think I'm like this big, vegan, like don't do anything or whatever, but I want my animals and myself to be healthy. I don't want to just eat something because it's vegan, or eat something because it's not eating animals, but meanwhile I'm putting all of these crazy chemicals into my body and my body's rejecting them and not understanding them and all that stuff. So do your homework, right? Like seriously do your homework on what you're putting into yourself in your dog's body. Dogs, cats, horses, doesn't matter. Potbelly pigs, ducks.
Dario asking here, my 8.5-year-old Golden is on her 3rd round of the gut protocol. Skin and coat is great for the most part, but she rubs or scratches her chin still. Anything else I can do? Wondering if it might be also behavioral. She's on a balanced raw diet.
Yeah, I would start looking at changing up her probiotics now. If she's gone through 3 of the leaky gut protocols, I would look at going into something like the Soil and Sea next, and then the wolf strain, and then the Phytosflora, and see, I would start changing up and diversifying her probiotics.
Lorraine is asking, my almost 12-year-old dog did so well on the wolf. I like to rotate, but the wolf is the best for her. And when she doesn't get it for a period of time, I can see differences. The first one is in the quality of her coat. Was thinking about doing a 2-3 day week rotation instead. Thoughts?
The wolf is absolutely best for her, and when she doesn't get it, her period time, I can see the difference. The first one is the quality of her. How thinking about doing a 2 to 3 day week. Oop, I lost. Oh, there it goes. 2 to 3 day week rotation instead. So I like to rotate, but the wolf is the absolute best. Okay, so all that means is don't get hung up that you have to rotate right away. Right? You may have to establish those particular strains in order to make sure that they have proliferated enough and they have set up shop, right? That they're really, really colonizing well and things like that. So don't get too worried about shifting. And the other thing that I was wondering, like, why don't you try, I don't know if she's tried the soil and sea, but you could try doing like a wolf for 5 days, no, wolf for 4 days, then 1 day of soil and sea, then wolf for the rest, and just do a different one day a week to start. If you're really trying to do a rotate, but you definitely could do that way.
Thanks. And Rebecca is asking here, I gave too much phytosynergy. What should I be watching for?
If she did or she did give. I'm just taking a picture of this.
She did.
She did.
Yeah.
I don't know too much. Like, what is too much? Is too much is like half a bottle or 3 teaspoons or 1/8 of a spoon. Maybe can she put it in the chat? But
Rebecca, are you still with us?
oh, did give. It did give. She must be, because she just said something. So Rebecca, could you please write in like how much you actually gave her?
Carmen is asking if you have a clinic in Moncton.
Oh, no, I don't have clinics anymore.
And when we're still waiting for Rebecca to answer you, so Lauren asked here, like, if any thoughts on how to get people to listen to your message, as in what you are talking about tonight, when you don't have the credentials or degrees that seem to be what people want to see in order to believe what you are saying.
So that's why I'm saying it's like even if I did, like, what, I have to be a biologist or whatever, to talk about the seals and to talk about the environment and stuff. I don't. I mean, I what I'm trying to get people to do is dig in for themselves. That's what I'm trying to say. For me, Lori, or is it Lauren? Is a really good question, Lauren, because I think what's really important with that question, I get furious when people feel like the average public are what we're called so-called sheep or uneducated, or you have to be a politician to know what's going on with the environment, or you have to be a scientist or a scientist to produce a vaccine or a drug that is incredibly detrimental and goes on the shelf and then 10 years later comes off the shelf because it's considered dangerous. So I think that every single person in the world has the potential to have the right to be well-informed and educated. And the only way to be well-informed and educated is to get as much information from both sides of the story as possible. And then you make your own informed decision based on what fits for you, what fits for your ethics, what fits for your life, right? Because what might fit for your life or for anyone else out there watching might not fit for mine. And what might fit for mine might not fit for Mariana's. And what might fit for mine might not fit for Rebecca, or might not fit for like we aren't all alike, right? We're all different, and we all should be allowed to be different. You know, we're politically right now, everyone is allowed to be different, right? Like from how they're addressed in the world, from how, so why should our minds not be the same? Like why should you be labeled that you don't have the credentials, or anyone like Rebecca, or like Lauren? Like, you have just as much right, you have just as many brain cells in your brain as a scientist or anybody else, but you have more than that. You've got where you can be an objective observer, because when you're mired or so ingrained or so deep in your industry or in your profession, you can make anything sound like it's right. You can adjust things, and you can say things to make anything sound right. And I think that the most brilliant people, and the people that make the best decisions for their pets and for their animals and for their lives and for the planet, are people that can be conscientious, like objectively conscious, so that they can step back, take in all the information, and then make a decision for their family, for their animals, for their planet, that fits the best for them. And if that is eating seal oil, and if that is not recycling, and if that is not caring about it, then that's their choice. That is literally their choice. We all have a choice. We don't have to, no one has to have degrees or credentials to have a choice. And everyone with the internet now, everybody can unpack something that's very, very, very scientifically intense. Like I'm a nerd. I stay up all night long and I read ridiculous amounts of science and research. And I am working with Dalhousie University right at this moment, going into my 4th year of cancer research. And I am not a scientist, but through 30 years of experience working with animals and working with cancer, I came up with a hypothesis of what I've seen from being in the trenches and sitting with people and taking case after case after case and listening to thousands of people and working with thousands of animals. I came in dealing so closely with nature and having a mother the way I had it, I was able to come up with a hypothesis of all of my education, all of my experience, and all of my love, and take it to a university and say, I have this idea. And I am now in my 4th year working on cancer research. And I'm not a scientist. I don't have a degree as a scientist. So I feel like we get way too caught up in that. Like we get way, way, way too caught up in that. And I think if you lead from your heart, I'm going to say this really fast, because then I got to go and check on my cat. But Mariana was part of this. And I think that what is really cool is that when I opened my vet hospital, I got raked over the coals by the Vet Association. And because I wasn't, I wasn't a vet, and I wasn't a conventional vet, and my degrees in England and all my stuff in all the other countries and all the education that I had meant nothing. And they've tried to discredit me as much as they possibly could. And I second mortgaged my house, and I got a lawyer, and I worked with them, and I wound up owning and opening the largest integrated veterinary hospital in all of British Columbia. And it was the first one. and, you know, in 1997, and practicing for 30 years. And I still got raked over the coals. And when I had a column and I wrote about probiotics in 2006, I got fined by the Vet Association because there was no proof that probiotics worked back then. And I had to, you know, write back in my column and sort of discredit myself again by saying, well, you know what, you know, I'm not a scientist, and I don't know this for sure, but I've treated thousands of animals and I've seen empirical proof that probiotics in fact do work, and they are phenomenally important. So then I just went into researching probiotics, anyways, it's a very long story short, is I did a lecture for this wonderful veterinarian, that I spoke to, that contacted me to do a lecture for him. And I did, and I didn't really recognize his name. And he was a veterinarian that sat on the board of the vets that were trying to close my clinic down, my veterinary hospital down. And he said to me that he felt like the one thing that was different is that I never stooped to that level. I never wrote about how horrible vets were, and I never even told people what the Vet Association was even doing with me. And I still don't. I still have the most amazing respect for veterinarians, and I still have the utmost care and admiration for them. And I see, you know, I see where they're coming from their education, and I don't judge it, right? I don't judge it. So when people talk to me about my background and my education, and it doesn't even faze me, because I know what I'm doing in the world, and I would rather stand behind working with thousands of animals and thousands of people, and thousands, and I mean thousands, and seeing empirical proof over the last 40 years, than have a piece of paper and work with a couple of hundred animals and be concerned about who has education and who doesn't have education, and where their strengths and their weaknesses are. And when I started Adored Beast, my goal was to empower pet parents. And that was back in, man, I used to say that in my clinic in the early 2000s. It's like, yes, you can come into my vet hospitals and we can do that. But what I really, really want to do is I want to empower you as the parents of this animal. I want you not to be afraid. I want you to be able to look at your animal and know what to do. I want you to have a voice. I want you to be able to come into my practice and say, you know, Julie or Dr. Roosh or whoever, I don't think you're right. I have a sense that there's something else going on with my animals. I don't want you to be afraid to do that. I want to empower pet parents. And because I think they're really smart. And I think pet parents know as much or more than anybody does about their animals if they really love them and pay attention. So that was a very long, a very long answer to that question. But basically what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if it's me, it doesn't matter if it's a biologist, it doesn't matter if it's a really good friend of mine who is like a whale biologist that has told me all kinds of things. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters about where your intent's coming from. What's your intention? Is your intention to really bring the truth out? Like what is the intention? And I feel like you have as much power and as many brain cells and as much of an ability to affect the world in a positive way. I don't care what your or anybody's education is. I care about who you are and how you're going to contribute to this planet in a positive way. So on that note, say thank you for showing up, and I hope I didn't bore everybody on my tangents.
No, it was awesome. Thank you for being so true with all of this and to share all your opinions and everything with us. It was wonderful.
Thank you, guys, like always.
I would also like to thank you everyone for being here today with us. And I know that we have a few questions to be answered. I would ask you for you guys to join us in our community on Facebook, the Adored Beast Collective, and ask us your questions there, or you can also email our amazing customer service team at questions@adoredbeast.com, and we will be glad to help you. And also, again, I want to thank everyone to join us today, and also thank you, Julie, again. And have a great night, everyone. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. You can sign up on our website at the bottom of it to get all information about Adored Beast, her promos, new blog postings, and future Ask Julie Anything sessions.
And thank you for your first Ask Me Anything. That was awesome.
Thank you for the patience, and sorry about the beginning.
All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.